Welcome to GamingBolt, and today we're going to be reviewing Shadow of the Colossus, the remake for the PS4. One of the PlayStation 2's most endearing, spellbinding, and audacious games has finally gotten the remake treatment in Shadow of the Colossus for PS4. This full ground-up remake from Bluepoint Games at SIE Japan Studio, known for their efforts in Gravity Rush 2 and The Last Guardian, captures the entire Shadow of the Colossus legacy in new, jaw-dropping graphics the game has always deserved. In terms of new content, it doesn't really add much, but the fully engaging atmosphere and tear-jerking story will drag you back to this far-off land to uncover its secrets, save the girl, and become the Colossi Slayer. If you haven't played Shadow of the Colossus, then you'll know right from the start with the epic introduction that this game has big ideas in store. From the very beginning, this is a game shrouded in mystery up until the end. It focuses on Wander and his ancient sword, his brave horse Agro, and the dead body of a young girl named Mono. Crossing perilous canyons and treacherous lands, Wander braves his way into the Forbidden Land, where legends speak of powers that can bring the dead back to life. Crossing the bridge deep into the vast Forbidden Land, Wander finds a towering temple where he meets Dorman. Dorman informs Wander that bringing Mono back to life may be possible, but Wander will have to prove himself by killing the 16 Colossi with the ancient sword. There are very few items the game gives Wander, and even fewer abilities. Wander's main weapon throughout the experience will be his ancient sword. This weapon has the ability to track down each Colossi's location by reflecting beams of sunlight in the corresponding direction with pinpoint accuracy. The ancient sword will only register this lighted path when standing in direct sunlight though, so hiding behind hills or being stuck in a canyon will cause the ancient sword to not direct you properly. Wander's other weapon is his bow and unlimited supply of arrows, which comes in handy only a few times throughout. Wander can also climb and shimmy certain walls and ledges along with the ability to swim. Agro, his horse, helps him span the Great Land in much shorter time, and the horse can also be used to help boost Wander up to higher locations if need be. The Forbidden Land is as breathtaking as it is monumental. This is the setting that defines the entire experience within Shadow of the Colossus. Getting to each Colossi takes time and more than a little effort. Much of the land is easy to traverse, while others can be ever so slightly rough. There are no enemies within the game to defeat besides the towering beasts, and no side quests or mini-games to distract you. If you experienced this game on the PS3 or even back with the original PS2 release in 2005, you'll find the graphics in Shadow of the Colossus to be literally redefining visual awe. For its time, Shadow of the Colossus was a sight to behold. We played this game on the base PS4, and we have to say this is one of the best remakes of all time. We can only imagine how this looks on the PS4 Pro in 4K mode. What were once choppy and blocky visuals are now smoothened and refined. The backdrops are clear and precise, not muddy and blurred like you'd witness in the original, and there are drastic improvements in character models, lighting effects, and foliage density. Everything just looks really fresh. We've received a game that has taken detail down to the smallest pixel and made the most of what the hardware has to offer. Even with such a large sense of scale and scope, getting lost in the Forbidden Land isn't really possible. Shadow of the Colossus, no matter how vast it may feel, still has a sense of linearity to it. That feeling that no matter where you go, there's always going to be sunlight to guide you. Most locations are tied to pathways where, once you make your way nearest the corresponding lighted path, the land will mostly guide you towards the correct location where you'll find the next Colossi. With valleys, forests, canyons, lakes, and more, there's never a dull moment in the land that feels like it goes on forever. Even when I wasn't tracking down a Colossi, I found myself wandering the great landscape, seeing what new vistas I could discover or what was around the next bend. There's almost no area you won't want to cross over, and that becomes a very good thing in a game with only boss battles to endure. Coming to the game's main fun part, which is hunting down and tracking the 16 massive Colossi, they come in all different shapes and sizes and are brilliantly and lovingly recreated from the original version. In the remake, you'll get well-rounded and finely detailed monsters with features that aren't as stagnant as the originals. These Colossi and their parts, such as fur, move more naturally than the original version. Dorman will give Wanderer a subtle hint to where you can find the next Colossus, and it's up to you, your trusty steed, and your ancient sword to reflect the light and hunt down the monster. The first Colossus is basically a tutorial of how to take down one of the gargantuan beasts. Once you meet them face to face, you might feel intimidated, like David meeting Goliath for the first time. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, goes the saying, so it's time to dive right in. Once a Colossus is in Wander's sight, it's a smart idea to reflect the sword once more straight onto the beast. This will reveal its vital spot, the Colossus' main weak point. But before Wander can get to the weak point, he has to reach it. This involves climbing the Colossus. It's slow, strategic, takes practice, and patience. Trial and error may also be a factor. Most Colossus have several different paths that can be used to cling and climb onto them. One of the game's strengths is trying to figure out how to get to the starting point on each boss. This could involve luring the Colossus to a location, breaking its armor off, or shooting its feet first. Some Colossus have to stumble or open themselves to a starting route before being able to climb them. Each Colossus is covered in hair, scales, horns, or some other feature that will help Wanderers scale them once you're finally on board. However, climbing the beast from vital to vital isn't as simple as it sounds. The Colossus knows you're on it, and it obviously doesn't want you there. In fact, Wander is so annoying to many of the Colossus that the monsters will shake, rattle, and roll to get him off. This leads Wander to getting flung back and forth, hanging on for his life to stay on the Colossus, or face getting thrown off and having to start the climb all over again. Along with the Colossus thrashing about, trying to get Wander to fall off, our hero is equipped with a stamina meter. This stamina meter allows Wander a certain amount of time to climb or risk losing his strength and falling over. It becomes important to find safe, stable ground where the Colossus can't knock you off, so you can rest and regain your stamina and continue climbing to the next vital. Most Colossus will have one or more vitals to attack, which means there will be lots of climbing, shimmying, and strategizing on your part. Controlling Wander has been updated and modified from previous versions. You can still use the classic controls which are set by default, but we highly recommend using the modern style. It makes taking on a Colossus much easier. Aggro, however, is still a drag to take along for the ride. I sometimes found myself jumping off of aggro to get to certain locations because it was just easier to do so on foot. One of the best parts of Shadow of the Colossus is the simplicity in game design. This isn't a game where you have to do a lot of thinking until the boss battle occurs. The story is very minimalistic for most of the game, and leaves the player trying to fill in the massive blanks on their own as it progresses. And what carries over in subtlety is the way the music plays against the backdrop, the way the forest trees sway, and the prairie grasses rustle. It all adds a nice touch of substance to a game that purposely lacks in obnoxious video game noise. Overall, Shadow of the Colossus is still a fantastic game that leaves frantic gameplay behind for subtlety. It has its action-packed moments, but if you're looking for a game that's mostly relaxed and drawn out, with some action dropped in for good measure, you'll enjoy this latest remake. That'll be it for this video. If you like what we're doing, please go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.